What's up, everybody? Braydon here with Pickleball Effects. Today I'm joined with Evan Specht from Diadem. Your title is kind of like the founder and director of operations for Diadem, but super happy to have you on here. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do for Diadem.
Yeah, well, my name is Evan. I pretty much do everything, on all sides of the business, from development of the product, marketing, sales. I still do a little bit of that. I was just back in the warehouse today because we were down a guy today, so I was doing some fulfillment as well. So, I mean, we're a pretty small operation. We got 25 employees right now. So everyone kind of has their role, but then a few of us are kind of floating around doing a lot of different stuff. So I started the company with my business partner back in 2011 is when we started working on the brand, basically. And what we started with was a tennis string, a unique tennis string, star-shaped, that we had patented and really just kind of got out there as the new type of spin production string on the market, and it went really well, so we started to add new products. And then obviously a few years ago we started to get into pickleball as just fans and playing it ourselves. And in the beginning I wasn't really into it in terms of like as a product to sell, but as we got addicted to it and we saw everyone else, we decided to put a little effort in there. We have our supply chain that is able to produce, really high-end stuff. We have an R&D team that is able to kind of help develop a lot of the stuff with taking our ideas and the goals that we wanted to achieve in a product and turning it into a, really good paddles, really good, accessories and all that too. So it just kind of made sense for us to add it on a lot of our retailers and distributors. It was very easy for them to add pickleball as well. Mm-hmm. Everyone is kind of seeing a bump from pickleball where more people are coming into their shop, more people are coming into their club. So if they were carrying a few sets of string, now they're carrying dozens of paddles, and so it's been really good in that sense.
Nice, dude. Love to hear it. It'd be interesting to hear. So you, like the comparison of the size of your tennis business versus pickleball. I'm sure it's fluctuated, but if you had to, guess, like, okay, 60% of your efforts put towards tennis, or maybe 60% of sales are tennis, 40 or pickleball, but like, what would you?
Yeah, right now it's about 55 tennis, 45 pickleball. So our goal for 2022 was to be 50% pickleball. That was our goal. And in some weeks, some months we hit it, and sometimes we don't. Tennis, is a little bit driven by the ball. I mean, we produce a pretty well received and well sold ball. I mean, next year we're going to do 50 containers just of tennis balls, so it's like 100,000 cases. So that's a pretty high value product, and it's people will order, a club will order 30 at a time. So when we have these months where we're pumping a lot of balls, tennis kind of takes the crown. So in a sense, pickleball is doing really, really well at 45% because we're mostly selling paddles and we're selling bags, and that's like individual items compared to like someone buying $10,000 in just tennis balls for their club.
Right, and that's pretty remarkable, really. I mean, you started this in 2011, you said.
Yeah.
So you were doing tennis for years. You doing pickleball for a year and a half.
Yeah. So in 2011 is when we started like developing the brand. We actually didn't start selling to 2015. Okay. That's when we actually launched the business in terms of sales. There was a lot of development. We were doing it part-time, so it wasn't like we invested $1 million. I mean, we bootstrapped the thing from the beginning. So just a lot of hard work and a lot of effort. And we didn't start selling pickleball until last May. So May 2021.
Wow.
Now, we were developing it for about a year and a half before that, and testing it and playing it and all that. But we launched the Icon in May of 2021, and then the Warrior about this time last year, and then all 2022 we came out with a lot of stuff, a lot of products, received very well. We got a lot of friends, a lot of ambassadors, a lot of partners out there that are big believers in our stuff.
Yeah, and I'm one of them, man. I love what you guys have been doing. I was there from the beginning with the Icon. I did a review on that early on, and it was obvious from the onset that you guys are approaching it the right way. You're putting R&D, you're putting effort. You're not just making copycat paddles.
Yeah.
And so love what y'all are doing and your products. There's a reason I offer you guys stuff on my website. And but yeah, let's let's jump into some other stuff that is on my mind. So you guys recently had Diacon. It was this pickleball event that you guys probably, it was a couple weeks ago or so now. You brought in a lot of retailers, partners. A big part of that obviously was just to get some face-to-face time with people that you work with. But as part of that event, you guys released a new paddle called the Vice. We're calling it a concept paddle. When the paddle was released, I emailed you that night and I was like, bro, you got to give me one of these. And at the time, it was kind of confusing. We're like, it wasn't exactly clear whether it was going to be, if it was approved or not. But since then, it's been cleared up that it's a concept paddle. It's not meant to be USA approved. It's for you guys to kind of dump some ideas into it. But let's talk about the Vice, and then from there we'll kind of talk about the future of pickleball for Diadem and what you guys see for the future of the sport. So Vice concept paddle. I have it here. If you guys haven't seen it yet, I'm sure you have a bunch of your place, but here it is. It's tell us a little bit about the Vice and what a concept paddle means for you guys.
Yeah, so first I'll start with what a concept paddle means. I mean, we launched it, and we launched it with Diacon and this big event because we really wanted to showcase kind of the future of hopefully not just Diadem but also pickleball. And so we felt this paddle was very unique, and it was worth a little more than an Instagram post, which is how we've launched, obviously, and a lot of other brands launch with an Instagram post or a couple. We had this really, really fun event. Like you said, we were able to kind of get with all of our retailers and ambassadors that could come in. And the idea is that we've thrown basically years of ideas into this paddle. This is a paddle we started working on before we launched the Icon. This is what we started working on before we got into pickleball. And it was just, finding the right materials, finding the right the right manufacturing techniques to kind of be able to execute it. For example, people ask, why are there holes in the paddle? Like that's so illegal. And really one of the big reasons why the holes are in the paddle, besides we wanted to show that it was not approved, because that was the easiest way to show that's not approved, because we're not trying to be like sketchy or trying to slip it through. We never sent it. We're never going to send this in to be approved. It's not meant to be approved. So that kind of showed like, hey, this is a concept paddle. If you see a paddle with holes in it at a tournament, you shouldn't be playing with it.
I should try to sneak it in a tournament.
Well, we figured, hey, I mean, what if someone painted the paddle black and put a logo on it, and all of a sudden they go play with this, and they would probably win because it's that good. But the other main reason was as we were developing it, the paddle would crack and break if you don't have holes in it, because the deflection was so great that if you don't have the room for it to breathe, it would break. So all these things were like this learning process, and we wanted to make sure we got it right before we got it out there, and kind of showed the world what a paddle could actually do. Now we kept it the same shape, the same width, the same length. Right. The face is legal, like everything about it besides some of the things that the core does is a paddle that we consider a pickleball paddle, because we also had comments, well, why, if you're going to make a non-approved paddle, why not just use a tennis racket? Why not use a frying pan? It's like, well, this is a pickleball paddle. A tennis racket is a tennis racket. And anyways, a tennis racket would not be very effective on a pickleball court. You're not going to be able to move quick enough, right? So we do feel that the size of a pickleball paddle and the shape that we've used is the optimal shape. But we just think the core could be improved. So, what's inside usually is a honeycomb core. What we have
which is essentially
EVA
just
foam.
Plastic, right?
I mean, it could be plastic. It could be aluminum. It was aluminum for a time. I mean, you can use different materials, but the kind of the optimal material for honeycomb is like a plastic, a PP, polypropylene plastic. So, but this is EVA foam, and so the whole thing is solid, and it's injected after the mold is made. So. It enables you to do a lot of things. You can do the different, densities of that. You could do different stiffnesses. This is, the one that we went with in the end, because it really conforms and deflects to the ball. So the ball pockets kind of like a tennis string on rackets. And so you're able to get more pop, more spin, more control, but also more feel. It's better for your arm. The vibrations are basically non-existent. The sound obviously is a thing in pickleball that most people.
It's unique.
Yeah, and in pickleball, most people have become accustomed to the sound, and even the golfers, on the other side of the parking lot, are getting more accustomed to it. But there's still a lot of areas where sound is an issue. The sound has to be below a certain decibel, and this, clearly meets all those. And it actually is a kind of a pleasing sound once you get used to it. Not a pingy sound, but more of a dull, smooth sound. So
I played with it for the first time last night, and it has a different sound. It's definitely a little easier on the ears. I wouldn't say it was necessarily any quieter, but it was different, and I guess just more like it's just easier on the ears.
Right. Yeah. And so all this stuff, some of it approved, some of it not approved, are just like a thought process of, okay, how do we then take some of these cool technologies and cool kind of results that we got from this paddle and put it into our V2s of our Icon Warrior Edge that will be coming out in 2023. So, it's something that we could have just kept in-house and never showed to anyone. We felt, I think, that the pickleball world should see this and play with this. Of course, some people disagree with that. Some of the social media is aggressive, very aggressive.
Let it happen.
Hey, let's talk about it. Like, you don't want to play with it, that's fine. Let's see if anybody gets any other ideas. I'm sure other brands are going to see this and think, okay, how can we learn from this too? I mean, we already know what's happening. I mean, our factory, our sourcing team there has had basically calls from every single brand asking, what did they do? How'd they make it? How can we do it? Things like that. So, I mean, we knew it's going to happen. We know it will happen, and we want it to happen. We want pickleball to be better. One thing I always say is, if we want this sport to be 40 million participants in 2030, which is kind of everybody's goal, 40 by 30, if we want to be on a yearly kind of trajectory where the pros and tournaments and stuff are making, $100 million in prize money, combined, maybe. I mean, that would be a good goal. I mean, it's still well short of all the other big sporting, sports. But if we want to be like that, I just don't think you're making equipment in a garage. I mean, a lot of equipment, a lot of brands are making their paddles in their garage. I just don't think that that's going to get us to that point. I think the equipment needs to be better. I think this is a lot better. I think there's more consistency. Honeycomb breaks down. It collapses. It goes dead. Pros are demanding more and more quality equipment, just like in every other sport. Tennis rackets, baseball bats, golfing, golf clubs. So I think pickleball, this is an evolution where we could be. Now, maybe that's not, but that's fine. I think that it's still just an idea. Let's talk about it. Let's see what else we can do.
Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts about some of the things you said, and to the point of like, okay, some of the negative comments I've seen about this is like, why are you selling an unapproved paddle? And for me, my thought was, I like that you're putting this out there. You're giving people a chance to hit it, to see what's different, see what's available. And I think it's great for your brand that you're kind of exposing your R&D and showing that you are capable of making different things. You're capable of innovating. What I don't think a lot of people realize that the majority of brands out there are not capable of doing what you guys just did. Like, they can't just go create this paddle that you just made. And it kind of shows the legitimacy of Diadem, what you're able to make and what you're bringing to the market. Like, there's really only a handful of brands that I see that are truly different out there. I think you're one of them. And a lot of it, everybody else, they're making copycats of each other. They're all sourced from a lot of the similar places. I don't think people realize that. So I love that you're exposing your R&D. You're making it available for people to use. Like, you're not like pushing it, you're just making it available, which I think is fine. For me personally, like, it was really fun playing with it. I really enjoyed it, but I can't keep playing with it because I play in a lot of tournaments and I don't want to get used to it. But it was really fun to be able to see what's capable, offer my thoughts and kind of feedback to your team, which I think is what you're looking for. You're just looking for the reaction. You're just seeing what people think. And mostly. But I mean, at the same time, we have distributors and
we're all over the world, and for tennis, and so we're trying to get pickleball everywhere. Also, we have a great distributor in South Africa. We have a team in Europe that has distributors in Sweden and the UK and Spain, and then our Japanese team, which was here at Diacon, we're getting them super interested into pickleball, and I think it could do very well in Japan. South Korea, we have a team. So a lot of these places, USAP is kind of, doesn't exist, right? So what are the rules? What are the rules going to be? 10 years down the road, what are the rules going to be if it's in the Olympics? If it all of a sudden you see this spike in Japan and there's 10 million players in 5 years and they have another set of rules, and somebody's going to have to come together and say, okay, these are the rules for the entire world. Kind of like in tennis, you have the ITF, the ATP, the WTA. So,
yeah, that's interesting. I didn't even consider that, but yeah, that's a very valid point.
Yeah. So, and at the same time, in the United States, there are a lot of tournaments that are not run by the USAP, and there will be some big prize money tournaments in 2023 that the Vice is going to be allowed to play in. So the little sneak peek, sneak peek, if you want to get up there, there will be.
I'll keep the paddle handy.
Yeah, there will be some massive prize money events, pro events that the Vice would be allowed. It won't be governed by the USAP. So we like you said, we just want to get it out there. We want to get the feedback, but I also. When people say, well, I'm playing tournaments, that's fine. If you don't want to use it, I'm sure everyone would like to try it. We know a lot of people have a lot of paddles in their bag. A lot of people play tournaments. A lot of people don't. I would say 90% don't play tournaments. So if you're looking for something better for your arm, if you're looking for something maybe a little even more fun to play than just a regular paddle, this would be it.
Yeah. No, those are great comments, and I'll share my first thoughts on it. So I played with it last night, and honestly, dude, it's legit. It feels really good. I have my notes here. I'll read some of the stuff I wrote down, just kind of my first impressions after I played with it. One is that there's noticeably less vibrations. It feels very solid. It feels much more comfortable. It just has a less harsh feel to it, which is very uncommon for power paddles. When I look at other power paddles from Electrum or Selkirk. They have a very hard, stiff feel, and that's what you have to do with the current rules to get that same amount of power. But with this, it's you don't have that. It's very solid. You get that power without that hard feel. So it has that really unique combination of a soft, comfortable thud type feel while still producing the power. And it made it a lot easier to control. Typically, it'll take me a week or two to kind of hone in my resets and my drops. And I found it in game one. My drops felt very comfortable, and I was still cranking it on my drives and serves and overheads. I was able to put the ball away in a lot of cases where I normally can't. And so I think that was the biggest difference between this and other power paddles I've played. It's so much more comfortable than what other things are out there. And it I was really into it. I was very impressed. A lot of good things to say about it. And the spin was there, and I haven't played it for an extended period of time to see if that sticks around, but the spin was obviously there. And as far as does this change the game? No. Do I like it? Do I think I could do some stuff with it I can't do with other paddles? Yes, but if somebody on the other side of the court was playing with it, I wouldn't be hey, go put that down. You're gonna beat me because you're playing with that paddle. It's no, you can play with that. I don't care. But yeah, I do think it's legit, and I think there's some stuff behind it. I was really impressed with it, and but yeah, dude, a lot of good things to say about it. I do want to kind of talk about help people understand why it's illegal. So obviously the holes, right? You guys put the holes in it to give it, make it obviously illegal. But let's talk about deflection. I think that's the biggest reason, or the reason really why
that is the reason. Yeah.
So tell us about what deflection is, what the current rules on, and why this kind of.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know what the exact measurement for deflection is. It's 0.012 millimeter microns. I'm not exactly sure, so I could get that for you. But what I know is that they're very strict. Basically the paddle can't deflect at all. Is in essence.
Meaning it has to be the
has to be a board. Yeah,
it's very stiff. The ball can't it's like a trampoline, right?
Yeah, you can't have this type of compression and deflection.
when you feel it,
you can feel it just like
you
that.
You can feel it sink in a little bit,
right?
And that's what's illegal, really.
Yeah, and the honeycomb there's no give to it at all. So you can have softer honeycomb, you can have honeycomb that the little honeycombs are bigger or smaller, tighter. Right. So the tighter it is, it'll deflect even less, and so that's where you can get more power. If they're a little bit bigger, it'll deflect some, but it's basically no deflection at all is allowed. So
this has a higher deflection rate?
Yeah. So it's really like compressing, and that allows the ball to kind of like stay on the surface a little bit, and it kind of, what we would call in tennis, pockets the ball a little bit, like where when the string kind of catches a tennis ball, and it allows you to really like lift vertical. And that's what you can do with this paddle. So, I think there is a little bit of a learning curve. I would imagine after 10 hours of playing with this and really exploring your stroke, kind of adjusting a little bit, which you don't want to do because you don't want to get used to this paddle and then switch back. But if you did, and we have really get into it, I mean, there's a lot of crazy things that you can do. That you can turn the ball off the court. The spin is by far the most spin of anything out there, and it has nothing to do really with the surface. Very little to do with the surface. It's catching that ball. So, much like in tennis, when you went from a wood racket and natural gut strings to the carbon fiber, bigger head, 100 square inches from like they were at like 75, and then polyester string, which really allowed the ball to be pocketed very well. So that's what makes it unapproved. And the thing is that it's not really black and white of this is really, really bad if it's unapproved, because this material is so much better for you. It's so much better for the arm. It's so much better for sound.
The best word I could to describe it is it's just less harsh. It just feels comfortable.
Yeah, because a honeycomb core, whether it's plastic or aluminum or Kevlar or aramid, whatever, they're very hard. They're going to be very hard, and the way that they're aligned, they're giving no give at all. So, it's a question that we want people to play with and say, hey, wait a second. I mean, would this help me be a better pickleball player? Would it help me enjoy the game more? Would it help the pro sport be more enjoyable to watch? I mean, and I think a lot of people, the answer is going to be yes. I mean, of course, there's going to be a lot of traditionalists, like even people in our organization, that are like, well, we want to keep it exactly how it is. But if that's the case in every other sport, there's no Steph Curry, there's no probably LeBron James, there's definitely no Rafael Nadal, because him with a wooden racket would be completely different. I mean, he'd probably still play tennis and be very good, but it wouldn't look like it is now, and there wouldn't be millions of screaming fans with Rafa shirts. So I'd be interested to see some pro players. We've had some of our guys test it and say it's unbelievable. I would love to see other pro players see what they say. If they would think it would be better for the sport or not.
Yeah, interesting. So my next question around this would be, how, what have you guys taken from this experiment? Some of the feedback you've gotten from your pros and others, and what are you going to implement potentially into your second generation paddles?
Yeah, so some of the tech, like I mentioned, is very usable. The face is actually a new face, a new paint that we mixed together, sort of what the Icon face was with what the Warrior face was. So what we're left with is a very durable, long-lasting, but still gritty surface. That's a legal surface. So that's going to be used. Also, just the molded aspect of the paddle, which the Icon had before, but we've kind of taken it to the next level by using some special material on the edge, to where we feel comfortable that it's completely edgeless with no protection, that this material will be durable enough to handle the scraping on the ground, the casual throwing of the paddle by certain people when you're angry, the paddle tapping, all that stuff. So there's nothing for this. There's nothing to break. There's no edge guard that's going to come loose that's glued on. Yeah. And so we're going to be implementing that in obviously our future paddles. The Icon, which is the first V2 to come out, is already an edgeless paddle, but we do use the replaceable edge guard, which we like for the Icon because it allows you to customize. You could put lead tape underneath. You could use a different color, but the edge guard is not really needed. Without the edge guard, the paddle still works fine. So you can replace it when it gets a little scraped up and stuff. But the future Warrior Edge potentially could be, edgeless, and then also the EVA foam. So the foam itself is a really unique and usable material if you limit the deflection. So it could be used in certain parts of the paddle. Doesn't we made the whole entire core, the whole entire underneath the surface is EVA foam. But if we used it in strategic places, which we are in our future paddles, it's going to give you that same dampening, very comfortable feel, but legal.
Nice, cool. Love to hear it. I think you guys at Diacon mentioned like the release schedule. When do you expect the second generation stuff to come out?
Yeah, so we have it not like exact timing because some of the stuff's still in development. We do know that the Icon, which is completed and just being produced, is in February. The Warrior is probably sometime in Q2, and then the Warrior Edge is towards the end of the year after summertime. So those are still in development. We're still working on things, fine-tuning things, and then of course we got to produce it, we got to market it. So there's a whole process involved. But we have prototypes. They play amazing. We're super excited. We just want to fine-tune it. We want to make it as perfect as possible.
Well, cool, and I am super excited for the future of what you guys are bringing to the market, and I can't wait to get my hands on them. But for anyone interested, I have reviewed all of Diadem's previous performance paddles. I'll put some links in the description. You can check those out, and I'll definitely be keeping tabs on what's coming out and keep you guys informed there. But really excited about it. Evan, any other plugs?
Yeah, the only other plug is that this paddle it's not available yet. We're launching it December 2nd, so it'll be available across all of our retailers online, our website, December 2nd. So if you're looking for it, that's when you're going to be able to get it. So just a couple weeks.
Okay, man, sounds good. Appreciate it.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Yep, see ya.